Hello, hello everyone. If you are on the East Coast, grab your lunch. If you are on the West Coast, grab your cup of coffee or tea or juice or smoothie, and let's get ready. Today, thank you first of all for taking your time and spending these 30 minutes with me today. This is definitely the first step towards trying and reflecting about doing something different for your child. So definitely that's a very good step. What I would suggest when I know that now more participants are coming, I would like to suggest you to grab a piece of paper to write down ideas that you may have throughout these 30 minutes to make the most of your time. And I'm gonna ask you to write your questions on the Q&A bottom right now. So throughout the webinar, I may be able to answer any of those questions. And if I don't, what I'm gonna do at the end of the webinar, it's gonna be recorded. I'm gonna send you the recording, and I'm gonna also answer the questions that were not answered throughout this time. So first of all, grab a piece of paper to write down ideas for you and for your child, and start writing any questions that you have about how to best support your bright and disorganized child to thrive in school. Also, while we wait for other participants to join in, I'm gonna launch a poll just to have an idea of your kids' age or grade. So I can also tailor my examples with your kids' grades and your kids' needs. Thank you for completing. I'm gonna just wait just 1 minute, so then we can get started. I'm gonna share my screen. It's a presentation. All right. So most of your kids are in grades 9 to 12. That's perfect. And then some of you are in grades 6 to 8. So I'm gonna just end the poll. And yeah, like 83% of you have kids in grades 9 to 12. So that's great. And some of you in grades 6 to 8. So that's good. Now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm glad that I have many people participating today that I don't get to know them now, and I hope to have and start a good communication and supporting your family soon, individually. My name is Valeria Fontanals. I'm a licensed school psychologist. I've been working helping kids optimize their learning for the last 20 years, most of the time in clinical setting, administering psychoeducation assessments, and definitely, providing diagnosis for kids with learning challenges, ADHD, within the autism spectrum, as well as twice exceptionalities. Those are the kids actually that I do work the most, and those are the kids who may be really bright, they are gifted, but they also have another condition. So they could either be gifted and have ADHD, they could either be gifted and have learning or dyslexia, dyscalculia. So those are the kids who are typically bright, but they don't do that well in school. So I'm gonna share with you throughout my experience in these 20 years working with families and with kids with different backgrounds. I'm originally from Argentina. I live in Miami now. I studied in in Boston in 2014, a long time ago. So I kind of have the experience of working within the US setting, as well as I worked in China and in South America for sure. So having said that, I want to share with you 3 powerful tools that I find parents can make the most of it when you want to help your child thrive in school. So let's go to the next one. The number 1 is about the power of learning habits. So let's think about school. Most schools think about teaching your kids academic skills. So throughout the day, let's picture that your child, especially if he's in grades 9 to 12, he's gonna have different subjects. Each subject is gonna be a different teacher. So throughout the day, he's gonna be running from one place to the other. If it's in person now, in some places, it is virtually. So he's gonna be running from one link to another. And at the end of the day, he will come home, or he will be still at home, but it's gonna be time for homework. So each of the teachers are gonna be providing different homework. The way that the teacher would visualize having the kids is, okay, like I teach a content and then I expect them to memorize and at the most make use of it through a quiz, through a project or a test. Now, the teachers don't necessarily connect to each other. And at the end of the day, your child will have to independently figure it out what to do and how to do with all the workload that each of the teachers have been providing. So if you have a high school child right now, you would be expecting definitely, because he's almost an adult, for him or her to do everything independently, right? So you might say at the most, have you done your homework? Have you done your homework? Have you done your homework? Like 1,000 times, right? So eventually your child at the end of the night will say, oh, you know what? I forgot that I had to do these tests for tomorrow, but I don't have the book to study. So if the book is at school, definitely he won't be able to do it. Nowadays, most of the school, the textbooks are digital, so eventually, he could log in. But at the end of the day, it's most probably that your child, may end up doing things last minute. So eventually then you won't provide much feedback because it's like, I'm sorry, it's too late, you have to go to sleep, and tomorrow it's another day. Now, typically, teachers expect the kids to become independent learners. And we as parents, maybe when your kids were younger, you would kind of provide them with some routine, and you might have spent some time teaching them some life skills, how to have good manners on the table, how to tie your shoes, but maybe not necessarily you were focused on providing learning habits, right? Like how to be able to learn and how to organize schoolwork. Because definitely as parents, we believe that it's part of the school role or job, right? And teachers typically teach a subject, but they don't necessarily teach how to learn. And that's when these kids start to get low grades, or they're all over the place and the parents can't hold it anymore. That's when I get the call to say, okay, what can be done? So definitely if your child is in that state, we need to go from having a bad learning habits in which the child is going to do things last minute, your child may or may not know what to do, your child may spend like little time doing schoolwork. So we need to shift that not good learning habits to healthy habits, right? Definitely everyone would agree on that, but how do we do it? First of all, bear in mind that to change a behavior, that's what we are asking, our children to change a behavior, that takes time. But to change a habit, that even takes longer. So first we need to change the behavior of not waiting till last minute, to then make it a habit of planning your week, of organizing your day, and making good decisions in time management skills in terms of, okay, I think this is going to take me just 5 minutes to finish it. And finally, it ends up taking, your child an hour or 2 hours because he didn't really realize how much time, that specific project may take. So all those healthy learning habits cannot be really changed from one day to the other. Definitely, I would suggest you, if you are there and if you want to start making any changes in those learning habits, I would suggest you to, first of all, think about us as parents, how we can model that. So it's not necessarily about, at the beginning, how we can model how to study. Eventually, you can do that. But I would take some steps backwards, and I would think about how we can model, and actually how you as parent can model your week. Even if you work, definitely you need to have an agenda. It's either like physical agenda or on the phone, or you may have Calendly. I mean, you need to have some sort of organization in order to know what to do throughout your days, what tasks you're going to be doing, what calls are you going to be having. If you stay at home, definitely you're going to be taking care of the groceries, of all the schedulings from your kids, when they're going to have to pick them up, how I'm going to organize that. So you can share with your children how you can actually do that. How do you actually organize yourself? Now, some kids who are disorganized may have disorganized parents. So maybe, and that I work with a lot of kids who are disorganized, and they're all over the place. And I would say that 80% of the time, the parents have kind of a similar approach. So definitely we need to work with the parents and with the children. But if you're trying also to teach your child something, definitely you need to do it first. So first of all, I will try as a parent, think about and reflect about what are your learning habits, what are your routines that are working for you and that are not working for you, and how you can model that with your child. So the easiest way could be either like going to the groceries. Are you the typical one who would write down a list of the things that you need for the week? And maybe you even do like daily meal plan. And so you know exactly what ingredients you need for that week. But at least you write a list and then you go to the groceries in person or even like through online and you check on that, or you just go to the groceries and you kind of see and decide what, to put in your cart. Either way, I mean, if you don't have any planning, it's most likely that your child eventually may not have like any planning when it comes to sitting down for schoolwork. So try to figure it out your own and how you can model the actual skills in your life with your child. And again, you don't have to be perfect. Maybe you're not there and you also need some assistance on that. And that's also a positive thing to say and discuss with your child, that maybe you're not as organized as you want to be. So the first thing, again, in order to make any learning habits change, healthy habits, is to change those behaviors. Now, changing those behaviors to make them in a habit takes time, and especially it takes a lot of effort. Making a change is hard. It's hard work, because we need we need to set up the brain in a different way. We need to make new neural connections. So at the beginning, it's going to be hard and it's going to take us a lot of effort, but eventually if you do it in a consistent way, at the end of the tunnel, it's going to be easy, because the brain has been wired in a way that, you know, it's going to be not a learning process, but it's going to become a habit, and it's going to be something that you don't even have to think about. So think about like riding a bike at the beginning, or even like driving, right? When you learn how to drive at the beginning, you had to take into account so many things at the same time. And it was so hard to keep it up, right? Because your brain was thinking about so many things at the same time. Eventually, with practice and consistency, that is something that you do without even thinking. I am telling you that being able to organize and plan and make things happen in schoolwork with your kid is the same thing. If you keep a consistent schedule, if you provide him with enough time for him to organize and to do the homework, if you help your child being able to do that in a consistent manner for a long time, eventually then that it's gonna be easy for your child. But at the beginning, it's gonna take a lot of effort and hard work. And that is the clue. So if you want your child to work hard in order to make that change, we're gonna talk about the strategy number 2, that it's the power of the growth mindset. In the last, I've been working with kids through a lot of years with different learning profiles, bright kids who you may think they belong to the 1%, 2% of the population in IQ, but still they require a lot of support to thrive in school or even to thrive in life. And why is that? I may also find kids with learning challenges and with similar learning characteristics. So let's say with dyslexia, right? 2 kids with dyslexia. And one child having a similar support system and having a similar intervention, let's say, for dyslexia, maybe one child improved tremendously in reading and writing, and the other child, having received the same intervention, didn't improve that much. Let me tell you that there is one factor that I found that would make that different. The difference is about what that child believes about learning and about intelligence. If the child believes that working hard is an asset, probably that child is gonna thrive, and that child, like those dyslexic kids, the one who believes that working hard is something positive and that it's gonna take you somewhere, that is a child who is gonna thrive and move on. Even though both of the kids worked within the same program, the same interventions, the other child may think, if I work too hard, people may think that I'm not smart enough. Because most people believe that smart people don't have to work hard because they have, and that's true at the same time. They can easily do some things, right? Now, if you think about any genius person or any person who actually thrives in life, you could see that definitely the gifted person has some sort of strength in a particular area, but the difference between one gifted child and the other gifted child is the amount of effort that they spend on making things better. So the difference between changing, as I said, like number 1, the power of a healthy learning habit. How are you as a parent, you as a mom or dad, how are you going to support your child to do that? Or how your child actually is also would be able to make that shift is working hard. but how can you make your child work hard, right? Those are that is the typical question that I receive from most parents. I know that, he needs to change, but how can I make him do it? And as I said before, like the mindset that your child has about what learning means and what intelligent means is going to make the difference. If you have a growth mindset, you're going to think that making mistakes is something positive towards change and learning. You will think that working hard makes you arrive somewhere. So think about actually what your child thinks of making mistakes. Do you think your child thinks that making mistakes get him or her in trouble? Or that would be a fixed mindset? Or your child tends to think that making mistakes is an opportunity to learn something new? Does your child think that working hard is just for the dumb kids? Or does your child think that working hard will take you where he wants or she wants to be? Does your child think that smart people have to spend little time studying? That would be the fixed mindset. Or does your child think that studying is a must for getting things done? And for me, as a therapist and even like as a mother, this concept of the growth mindset was a shift in the sense of how, we can have all the tools, you can have all the calendars in the world, you can have all the tools you want for your child to use. But if your child has a fixed mindset, it's most probably that he or she will not want to try to work hard, because that would mean being stupid. But if your child has a growth mindset, that will take him or her whenever she wants to be. Definitely, there are tools to shift from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset. And even as parents, I would invite you to ask yourself, typically, what type of mindset do you have? Is it more the growth mindset or is it more the fixed mindset? Because the way that we believe, especially when the kids are little, and your kids at some point they were little, will be eventually, your beliefs are going to be modeled to your kids. So it's most likely that if you had at that point a fixed mindset, when your kids were 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or even 10, those beliefs were actually not even said, but they were modeled. And those beliefs were kind of in place and acquired by your kids. So one of the little things that you can start doing if you want to start making that shift with your child would be, let's say, during dinner time at the table. Some of the typical questions from positive psychology that we recommend is, can we share one thing that happened to me? Again, I'm gonna read for it again. Can you share something good that happened to you today? And that's good in the sense of identifying something positive about our life, right? Or you can be, now that Thanksgiving is coming, can you tell me something that you're grateful today? And that is also good. Now, if you want to start shifting from the fixed mindset to the growth mindset, I would suggest you to ask a question and also share about what mistakes did you do today that help you grow as a person? Or what mistakes did you do today that help you learn something? Or you can even ask, what did you learn today? And it doesn't have to necessarily to be what did you learn at school, but what did you learn today in your life? And if you keep that question in a consistent way, your child is going to realize that first, you as an adult, you make mistakes, and it is, you know, okay to make mistakes, and that you value the effort rather than the grades. And that's another thing when we review report cards, right? Do you tend to see, okay, like A, B, C? Do you tend, when you review the report with your child, you tend to just talk with your child about that C? And like, what happened here? Instead of, let's review what happened and what did you do through this quarter for you to get an A in art, even if it was art. Something good must have happened for you to receive that A, right? Definitely, maybe, you know, your child is talented in art and she's really good at what she does or he does. But he had to submit that work. He had to actually spend time making those drawings, for example. So that is something positive that you can share with your child. Like, I'm really proud that you spent time working hard on your drawing. So if you shift the conversation, eventually you're going to start helping your child shift the beliefs from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. If you make that shift, eventually your child is going to spend more time becoming more aware of how he makes those mistakes, and he may want to try harder because he will see and think that trying harder takes you places, that smart people work hard. And if, you know, your child eventually, as we said before, how you can change those bad habits, learning habits, to healthy learning habits is through hard work. So if your child now is ready to work hard, eventually he's going to make those changes. Again, does your child give up too easily? And not just about school, like in general. If he tries a new sport, does your child put the least effort possible in doing things? Does your child try to avoid any challenge? And you may call your child lazy, and that's the typical word that we as parents use. But just think of, I would invite you to think it in another way. Most kids are not lazy. I would say that 99% of the kids are not lazy. Maybe they don't try hard enough, or they don't want to show you that they want to try something, just to avoid the chance of committing a mistake and getting a low grade, or just to avoid the chance of thinking, I tried my best and still it didn't work out. So those kids are most likely not lazy, but they just try to avoid taking risks. And in life, if you don't take risks, you're not gonna go anywhere. So again, the growth mindset, the powerful strategy number 2, it's a must for your child to become better at organizing, planning, and thriving in school. Now, the third powerful strategy that I want to share with you is the power of the child and parent communication. I'm not talking about a relationship. I'm talking about how you communicate with your child when it comes to schoolwork. If you were, let's say, just think about when your kids were younger, what type of approach or parenting style did you typically have? Were you kind of more a helicopter parent in which you try to kind of micromanage your child in everything that he or she had to do, just to make sure that, you know, he was doing things the way that you were expecting him to do, and sometimes even do things for him when he was in elementary? Maybe he couldn't finish a homework. It's like, don't worry, I'm gonna just do it for you, so then, you know, everything is fine. If you've been that type of parent for a long time, and typically parents expect eventually from elementary to middle school or high school to make the shift of, you know what, I've been working with you and I've been supporting you, and you've been having a tutor, or I've been sitting with you for homework for enough time that now it's time for you to do it on your own. So maybe you supported 100% of your support now, but then you are leaving your child alone, and you expect, to make that bridge independently and learn how to do it independently without actually providing your child with the necessary tools to do it independently on his own. And that's when the child may start to being lazy or not, start on doing things related to schoolwork. And it's most probably because your child does not know how to do it on his own or her own. Or maybe you were at the other end, a child that, as a parent, that didn't get too much involved in schoolwork, as you would expect that, it's the only responsibility, that your child has is school, even if he was young. So it's his responsibility or her responsibility, and he should know better how to do it. And you mostly didn't get, involved at all. Definitely both styles, if your child is not thriving as now in school, do not work. And what it definitely works is reflecting about how you communicate with your child, specifically what you say to your child, what to do with your child, how to say it with your child, and how to do it, with your child, and when to say and do those things with your child. You don't necessarily have to force your child to do things, but you have to come up with a plan with your child. There has to be communication. There has to be, if you want your child to do things in school, there has to be a conversation, not fighting, but a real conversation in which, okay, I'm worried about this. What support or what do you need? And let's do this together. We typically do behavioral contracts with children, with the parents, and with the child, and with me or my team, in which we set up what are the expectations from the child for the dad or for the mom, in terms of what do you want your mom to say when she is reviewing your grades? What or how do you want your mom to review your grades? Do you want her to be next to you? Do you want her to just check and then have a conversation? And when do you want your mom to review your grades or your schoolwork? Do you want it every day? Do you want it by the end of the week? And also, what are the consequences that you as a child will have for not doing your schoolwork? I will tell you, kids, if you give that responsibility to kids, they may find harshest consequences for themselves than the ones that you may think of. But the plan is to do this change with your child, not for your child, and to be, to get him on board and have an agreement on what are the expectations for him, what are the expectations for you to do and when to do, and what will be the consequences for not following that agreement. Definitely there has to be a routine, there has to be a consequence, and it has to be consistent. So we are just on time. Actually, we passed the time. I have one question that I've been answering some of the questions that you asked so far. Yes, from the examples that I provided, the behavioral contracts that they're asking me, how to set it up. I would say typically what we do is even as if it's a contract, right? If it's a specific contract that you have to sign, but you make it together with your child. So I, as, and your name, agree to. So for example, 3 things that typically some kids say. Do not scream to me if I get an F. Check my grades only on Fridays. Remind me to do schoolwork just 1 time per day. And then your child would be, what would be his interventions or his ways of doing. So I agree on doing like spending. So typically your child should have a specific time allocated, right, per day for homework, to do homework from 5 to 6. I agree on submitting my schoolwork. I agree. So, and if that doesn't happen, then you can take my phone off for a week. So, and that's actually some of the things that the kids come up with, with consequences. If you do that, and if you keep that contract, and if you keep reviewing that contract with your child, it's gonna be more efficient than rather than just screaming or fighting against schoolwork. Now, if you want to continue the conversation one-on-one, you can definitely, I will be happy for you to schedule a 20-minute free consultation to kind of learn more about your child's learning needs and see how we can come up with a plan. And also I would invite you to participate, your child and you actually, in this 10-week workshop, how to manage school like a pro, that begins not next Monday, but the following one. And it's gonna be like 10 weeks, not consecutive because the holidays are coming. So then I'm gonna send you the dates, but it's gonna be 10 weeks of learning how to become more responsible about schoolwork, how to make that shift from to learning habits, how to make the shift to a growth mindset, how to have specific tools for organizing, time management skills, planning, problem solving, study skills. So kids are gonna be in sessions for an hour and a half each Monday in group sessions with similar kids those weeks. Within each week, every child is gonna have an individual follow-up. I will create a specific plan for each of the children according to their own needs. And I'm gonna have parent coaching calls as well to support that change and to also support strategies at home. And throughout those 10 weeks, definitely you're gonna start seeing your child making the shift. You can go online through online.myoptimalchild.com, brain training execution function, to learn more about this workshop that it's coming. It's very limited spots. We don't have more than 5 to 7 kids per group. So definitely that it's very limited. And also, if you want to know if this workshop would be a good fit for your child or your family's needs, you can set up a time for me to talk through, I'm gonna share that in the, let me see. Sorry, I'm gonna share that in the Q's and A's. In the chat. So you can go to, if you want to do it now, I would suggest you do it now. You can go to, it's in the chat. You can go to Calendly and you can schedule a time for me to talk to you and make an individual plan. And also, I'm gonna just write down the link if you wanna receive more information about the workshop. You're gonna find it there. So thank you so much for everyone for being with me today. And I hope to keep on the conversation later on. Have a great day. Bye-bye.